This afternoon I got a comment notification from YouTube about a previous vlog. The vlog was, is a 4-club wimpy possible? And Tomek actually made a comment. He said, I wouldn't agree that a shower is a base pattern. And I mentioned this comment to Juliana, and you asked me a question a bit like,
what is actually a base pattern? Is it a cascade is a base pattern?
A cascade is a base pattern. I would say a shower is a base pattern. I would say wimpy is a base pattern. Tomek disagrees. He said a shower can't be a base pattern because it's a site swap. And an excited state site swap too, which makes the trick even more apart from a base pattern. Interesting video though. Thank you very much for thinking this is an interesting video. Let's get into what I consider to be a base pattern. And I'm not going to talk about excited state and that kind of stuff. No, certainly not in this video. But he says it's a site swap. And the site swap for a 3-ball shower, he says is a 5-1, 5-1, 5-1. So the 5 is the high throw and the 1 is down here underneath. The problem with thinking of it can't be a base pattern because it's a site swap is a problem that you come up with juggling and what a base pattern is. If you look at juggling as how it's represented as a site swap. And it's kind of limiting because then it can't be a base pattern if it is a site swap, which is a weird way to say that if you consider everything to be a site swap, everything is a site swap, whereas I don't think everything is a site swap, or it doesn't have to be a vanilla site swap. So let's talk about that when it comes to, we're using beatmap. And when I say using beatmap, I want to talk about the beats of a pattern and where the problems are. So let's take it all the way down to one ball. There's 4 things that can happen on the next beat. You can either have the ball in the same hand on the next beat, you can have the ball in the other hand on the next beat, you can then also have a problem in the air on the way to the other hand on the next beat. So the next beat is when it's in the air, like there it's in the next beat. Or you can have a problem going to the same hand again on the next beat, which is like this. So what you have is a hold, you've got a zip, you've got a kind of a cascade throw, and you've got a fountain throw, which goes back to the same thing. Really, those are the four possible things that can happen with a ball in the hand. What can it be? Where can it be on the next beat? It can be on the way to the same hand, it can be on the way to the other hand, it can be in the other hand, or it can be in the same hand. When we're talking about two-handed patterns, that's pretty much it. There's really nothing else we can do unless we start using other body parts, like it's on the way to the head or something like that. But we don't need to worry about that. When we bring that to 3 balls though, we can say at any point, there's, say, a problem in the air, so let's rule out multiplexes here as well, and squeeze catches. Okay, let's get rid of them, because already we're into the realms of tricks there, so let's get rid of them just for now. So when I'm doing 3 balls, there can be a problem in the air, or there can be a problem in the air above the other hand. That's it. That's what we're gonna, that's just what we're gonna say is a base pattern. A base pattern is a ball in either hand and a problem in the air here, or a problem in the air there. And there's different ways that we can sort that out. And the easy way to look at it here is if we say this is a hand, and that's another hand, and we've got a ball there and a ball there. We can either have a ball coming down towards this hand or a ball coming down towards that hand. That's it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is what we have as here. So say the ball is there, it means it's coming down there, or it's coming down there. Okay. But let's just say that the problem is coming down here. One way that we can get out of that is to throw that ball here. And I mentioned this before, okay? One way that we can get out of that is to throw that ball over the top of this one, and then they swap places, okay? So, obviously, if a problem is coming down here, I can get out of it by throwing to the other hand, or I can get out of it by throwing to the same hand. Of course, if I throw to the same hand, I've just looped back around to the same place, and what we have is something like this, okay?
Yeah.
Doesn't look like a 3-ball pattern, but let's just call this a 3-ball pattern already. So, in beatmap, that is super easy. We call it a 2, 1, and that's the pattern. That is the pattern that I just showed you there. You see that? Okay? A problem is coming down to that hand, and I throw a ball, so the problem stays in the same hand. However, if I do this and the ball goes across to the other side, we actually get a pattern like this, and we've got a 2x and a 1 over there. We've seen this before, haven't we?
Well, yeah, that's the cascade, isn't it?
That's the cascade pattern. If we put a star on the end here, we actually get another looping pattern, and what we're doing then is we're putting the problem from this hand to this hand, to this hand to this hand, to this hand to this hand, and we get, obviously, the 3-ball cascade. Again, very simple. However, I already told you there's 4 things we can do with a ball. We can go like this, or we can do this, or we can do this, or it can stay in the same hand. We're gonna not talk about it staying in the same hand now, but what do we do? What happens if we do a zip across here? It means that this ball has to move, and there's actually now 2 options where that ball can go. It can either go straight up, or it can go back across here. And the two options that we have there is a ball is coming down here, and I'm going to zip this one, which means I've got to get this ball out of the way, because actually the problem coming down there is going to force this hand to do something, because I'm going to zip across underneath. So I can go like that. Okay, did you see that? The ball is coming down and it goes zip up, like a zip and a fountain.
But this is not a box.
Well, it's not a box yet, because I'm just doing one beat of it.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I do that one beat of it, actually what I've got here is a 2. The 2 on this beat, as the problem's coming down, the 2 is actually from the other hand, but let's ignore that for a second, actually, okay? And the 1 is going to be a 1x, okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've messed up a bit, because actually the 2, if the problem's coming down here, the 2 is there and the 1x goes that way. But it doesn't really matter, because again, we can put a star on the end of it, and guess what we've got here?
Then it's repeat. Then that is the box.
Then that's the box, okay. So actually what we've got here, we've got the same as the cascade is an alternating problem. A problem here, a problem there, a problem here, a problem there. The box is the same thing, a problem here, a problem there, a problem there, a problem there, a problem here, a problem there.
So a box is a base pattern.
It's a base pattern, or put it this way, it can be a base pattern. I'm going to call it a base pattern here. Okay, the final option that we have here, we can actually work it out. I've already kind of explained it. It's this one here. But we've got a 2 and a 1. We've got a 2x and a 1. We've got a 2 and a 1x. So what is the final option here? A 2x, 1x.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
In this one, we don't need a star on the end, actually, because the pattern stays on the same side. The problem, sorry, always stays here. So there's a problem above that hand, a problem above the hand. So the problem is always above the left hand.
Already a loop.
Yeah, it's already a loop.
Right.
In the same way that this is a 1-beat loop.
Yes.
This is a 1-beat loop.
Okay.
Okay, so functionally, let's put these together. These two patterns, okay, which we have here, we've got the cascade and the box, are functionally in this pattern the same, because both of them make the problem go to the other side.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, these two are functionally the same because both of them keep the problem on the same side, and we can see that by a cascade here. You can actually, anytime that you do a cascade throw, you can actually replace it with a box beat, you know?
Yeah.
Anytime that there's a fountain throw, you can actually replace it by a shower beat at any point.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you want to mess them up, you could do something like a cascade shower box fountain, cascade shower box fountain, cascade power box fountain. But this doesn't already say what a base pattern is. I would say the base pattern means that there's, with 3 balls, there's a problem in the air, you do the same thing on every beat, it loops every beat, but also when I say the same thing on every beat, it can be the mirror image of it.
Okay.
So I would say these are the 4 base patterns possible with 3-ball juggling.
Cool.
And it isn't an excited state. Excited state means there's sort of like there's spaces in the pattern because all of them have exactly the same state. If you don't look at it as vanilla siteswap, where there's a throw and other throw, throw, other throw, throw, other throw. If you just look at it sort of like this beat, 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 it's actually functionally the same. All 4 of these beats are functionally the same. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but in my understanding, this siteswap thing is that you basically can call any pattern a siteswap pattern when you write it down in siteswap.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. The point is that Tomek was saying, he's saying this is a siteswap, but it's only an excited state siteswap if you write it down in vanilla siteswap.
Exactly.
If you write it down in beatmap, it's actually exactly functionally it's the same as a fountain pattern, but actually it's also functionally the same as a box pattern or a cascade pattern. Those are the 3 typical beats. Okay, I just want to wrap this up because we did actually talk about the wimpy pattern. This is where this comes from.
Yeah,
the reason,
balls, right?
Yeah, the reason we actually have a different problem here. Actually, we've got like a hand with a ball in it and a hand with another ball in it. Okay. Now, there's different ways we can look at this. We can actually just say, what happens if there's a problem above this hand and there's a problem above this hand? Okay, and these 2 problems are coming down. Okay. Let's just do it this way. We can actually do 2 different things which functionally replace these 2 problems coming down with 2 problems coming down here.
Yeah, okay.
Like this. This is obviously the first one, but also...
How is this called?
This is just a synchronous fountain.
Fountain, synchronous fountain. Okay.
And this is then just a wimpy pattern. functionally the same, because it doesn't matter what happens in the case of the state that they have. There's a ball coming down to this hand, there's a ball coming down to this hand, okay?
Yeah.
The most obvious way that we could notate these is by 2 and 2, like that, or 2x and 2x, like that. Those are functionally the same, okay?
Yes.
Because what we've got is we've got problems coming down, and then that. But of course what I've just notated there is without any, I'm not notating when the catches are, like, or what the, you know, that there's any catches. It's just in the same way that this pattern, and the same pace as this pattern, or this pattern, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just leaving the dwell time the same, and I'm getting the same things with these patterns here. So it's every beat is the same or mirrored. In the case of a synchronous pattern, it doesn't matter. Which brings me to, if we do actually talk about these patterns with the catches on, we actually get this. We get a 3 and a 3 and then a 1 and a 1. Okay, so that's all that's just saying is that, you know, this together is 2 beats, is like these, we did this in a vlog, add these up, all these numbers up, divide by 2 beats, and we get 4. So we know it's a 4-ball pattern, like this kind of thing.
Right.
Or like this, if you want to put an X here and an X here. Okay, I would still say that this is a base pattern. We're just notating what's here. Although if we wanted to be clever, we could put X's underneath there, and then we're left with a pattern like this, where they go across like this. But I suddenly think this is not a base pattern because it's not actually happening. It's not a looping. It's not looping. Okay.
It looks quite hectic.
It is a bit hectic because, again, I'm not leaving myself any space for the catches. You know, in the pattern, I'm just doing the zips underneath. Yeah. But that's just to show that a 1, which is a hold, can just as easily be a 1x. Bring it over to the other side. Which brings me back to this pattern, okay, 3, 1. Okay, this is an interesting one because if we put a star after it, we actually get 3, 1, 1, 3. Okay, and again, it's functionally, it's like the same as this, and this is just this pattern here. Okay, does that make sense? So instead of doing them asynchronously, yeah, I'm just doing them asynchronously like this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, but I still do think that this is the same, but this is still a base pattern because we've got a 3 and a 1, and then we've got it just swapped around to the other side.
Right.
But every beat is the same. However, if we cross that out and put a star there, we've actually got a 3, 1, and we've already seen this with the 2, 1. A 3, 1 is this. You know.
It's 3 in 1 hand.
Yeah, it's 3 in 1 hand. Okay. But do you understand, as we looked at it before, 2 in 1 hand is functionally the same as a 3-ball shower, like this. So if we have 3 in 1 hand and 1, we can, of course, we can just put an X here and an X here, okay? And of course this doesn't change hands, so we need to take away the star. And then we've got ourselves a 4-ball shower, okay?
Right.
Now, I can't believe I'm dropping on a 4-ball shower. This doesn't look like much. But actually, if we look at the state of the pattern, we have a hand with a ball in it, a hand with a ball in it, okay, like this. And for both the 3-ball shower and 3 in 1 hand, we've actually got here, okay, and a ball here. So we've actually got 2 problems heading towards this hand.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the state of the 4-ball shower and the state of 3 in 1 hand and holding 1 in the other is the same.
Right.
But of course, if we look at the state of the 4-ball fountain, actually, we've got a problem coming to this hand, like this, and we've kind of got a problem coming to this hand, but like a beat later. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a space here and a space there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, see it.
So what we actually have here is, if we look at this as the states, this is the 4-ball fountain, but functionally the same in terms of state. Instead of it being a 3, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, 1, 3, if it's a 3x, 1x, 1x, 3x, it would look a bit like the sprung cascade, which looks a little bit like this, which I can't do very well sitting down. Which is, the sprung cascade is actually functionally the same as this, if you just look at it as the state. This brings me to say that what I think is a base pattern is where the state doesn't change each beat unless it's switching to the other side. Here, the base pattern is just switching either side, or it's staying on the same side like this one, or it's switching either side, which means that each beat both hands are doing the same thing each time, or a mirror image of what's just happened on the beat before. That's what I consider to be a bass pattern. So if we look at it again, wimpy, cascade, fountain, synchronous, fountain, shower pattern, and maybe the box, and maybe a sprung cascade. It's weird to think of the sprung cascade as a bass pattern, but it kind of fits in the criteria. If it's not a bass pattern, it's difficult to say it isn't a bass pattern. Otherwise, the only things that are bass patterns are cascades and fountains. And if there's only two bass patterns, why do we even name them? Why don't we just say cascades and fountains? That's what I think. Fundamental patterns are built up of beat-based building blocks, or can be. Any questions?
No.
Okay, there we go.